Okay, this is question 12. It's the last question in this passage. And if you don't know, um, the questions within a passage get harder as they go on. So this is probably going to be the hardest, or one of the hardest questions. Um, so just be aware of that the last one or two questions will be a wee bit harder than the first three or four. But as always, if you just take it step by step and practice, then there's nothing on the ACT science test that can trip you up. Just nothing. So let's look at question 12. According to figures 2 and 3, and again, just my first thing is I just want to find out the figures. I want to nail that first. I just want to do it step by step. So I'm going to come over to the red side, the right side, and just make sure that I know figure 2, figure 3. I'm done. Right. Over the study period, so that means I know the time, it's over the entire period, was the cumulative distance that material moved due to soil creep less than or greater than the distance that the material moved due to block glide. So was it less than or greater than? Okay. So we have our time and we have the question. So I'm going to look at the answer choices just again to give me a clue of exactly what I'm looking at. I just have to really look at the first one. And I'm looking at F and it says less. So soil creep, the material moved less. And the reason that they give me is because the material moved as much as 0.8 of a meter due to soil creep, whereas material moved as much as 30 meters due to block glide. All right. So I've kind of got my idea of what I'm looking at. So I'm going to go over to the red side, the right hand side, and look at the figures to work out. So my time is over the study period. So that means it's over the entire time, right? From 1994 to 98, 94 to 98. And this is something that again, if you practice enough, you start to just look for these things automatically. Whereas if you don't do a lot of practice, you might get thrown a little bit. And it's that the y-axis here, the measurements are different, right? It's measuring the same kind of concept. It's measuring the distance of the material that moved, but this is measuring it in a different scale. This one is 0.2 of a meter. It's going up 0.2 of a meter, right? Figure 2 is going up 0.2 of a meter, and the graph ends at 1.8 meters. So this is 1 point, its very highest is 1 point, or not the highest, but this is where it cuts off, 1.8 meters. If we look down to figure 3, this is measuring the same thing, cumulative distance, but if you look, it's a different scale, right? This is moving up 10 meters. So this goes from 0 to 90 meters. This one, the graph cuts off at 90 meters. That's a huge difference. Figure 2 ends at 1.8 meters and figure 3 ends at 90. So that answers our first part of the question. We're just going to do it, bit by bit, step by step. And the first one is, the first part of the question is, the material moved due to soil creep, was it less than or greater than? It's clear that soil creep, we know from reading the passage earlier on, that figure 2 measures soil creep and figure 3 is block glide. And hopefully if you didn't watch the earlier videos, we read the passage and it said that figure 2 was the soil creep and figure 3 was the block glide. So we know it's less because this is doing it on, tenths of a meter, and this is doing it 10 meters at a time. So we've answered the first part. So we come back over to the left-hand side, the green side, and we know that the right answer is less. That's the first part of this. It has to be less or else it's wrong. This says greater, it's out. This says greater, it's out. Now we just have to find the right reason, and we've got the right answer. So F says that material moved as much as 0.8 meters due to soil creep, whereas material moved as much as 30 meters due to block glide. All right, so we're looking at what time period? Remember, we're looking at over the study period. So it's the whole thing. So it starts at here at September 94, and we want to know the whole period, what was the greatest amount it moved. All right, so that's up here. We can see this is the top dot. And if you bring this across here, it says it's about 1.5, 1.4, 1.5. So if we come back to our left-hand side, the green side, and look at F, it said the material moved as much as 0.8 meter due to soil creep. Now it moved a lot more, it moved 1.4. So if I was in the exam, that's it. I would pick G and move on. But since this is a teaching video, we're going to take it a little bit slower. So it says it's 0.8. I think that's wrong, but I'm going to check G again just as from a teaching point of view. G says it's less, so we know that's right. And the material moved as much as 1.4. That's right as well. So we know that's the right one. But we're just going to keep on going just for thoroughness. And then it says as much as 64 meters due to block glide. Let's just check figure 3. And the top one at the end of the study was here. And again, if we take it across here, yeah, it's about 64, 65. So that's how you do that last question. And again, it might have seemed tricky when we read it at first, but you just have to take, answer the first part of the question, get that nailed, answer the second part, answer the third part, and nothing in that was very tricky at all. The answer is